This one's gonna be a tough one, but so 1 year ago today, I was on my way back from the most magical place on earth. I'm talking about Disneyland. I was out there with my girlfriend at the time, and just good times. You can't go to Disneyland and have a bad time, but just a lot of laughs, a lot of memories, a lot of good times. And one of the magical things about Disneyland is it always takes me back to my childhood, and especially me and my brothers, Matt and Michael. Just as kids running around, I remember being so excited, and never mattered how long the lines were. It would just felt good. We'd be in line, we'd be laughing, talking about, oh, we're gonna go on this, and who's gonna sit next to who, and laughing. Then after the rides, reliving that moment, and just the good times. And I remember a few weeks prior to this trip, my little brother Michael, he sent me a text message. I guess he had seen some of my social media posts, and I was, doing whatever. Social media. We only put what we want people to see, and I was out having fun with, my girlfriend or whatever at the time, and he sent me a message and was like, "Looks like you're having a great time. I'm happy for you, man." And I knew, my brother always sending love, but I knew he was in a dark place at the time. So for him to say that, I know that was kind of a reflection of where he was at in his life, and I knew that I didn't want him to feel any sort of kind of way. So at this trip at Disneyland, I was very conscious not to post any pictures of, hey, look at me, I'm having fun, I'm living my best life, because I knew he was in a strange place and didn't want him to be affected negatively by that. So fast forward to the drive home, and it was a fun road trip, laughing, telling stories, whatever it is, and my phone rings, and it's my mom. And some of I don't have the best relationship with my mother, and that's 100% on me at this point. And at the time, I was like, I kicked it to voicemail, and immediately after it rang again, and my girlfriend said, "Well, you should answer. It might be an emergency." And immediately I thought about Michael, and I answered the phone. It was my mom. She was crying, and she said, "He's gone. Michael's gone." And oh fuck. And I remember instantly, just tears started falling. No, 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 no. What? And I pulled to the side of the road. I got out of the car, and my life was forever changed. Now, anybody that knows, oh shit, uh, anybody that knows Michael, knew that he was a lover. He loved everybody. He loved his girlfriend. It's evident if you look at his Instagram page. Like, it's just damn near every post was how in love he was with her. He loved his daughter. He loved cats, and he definitely loved his brothers. Um, no matter what. Um, and just a funny story. I mean, my older brother Matt he had told my mom one day, not too long ago, that he was gay. And not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, I guess I got to put that disclaimer out there, but, and I was like, yeah, whatever. And like, my mom's gullible. But the reaction from Michael, he called me and was like, "Did you hear?" What's going on? Matt's gay. He told our mom he's gay. And I was like, oh, come on, man. Give me a break. He was like, no, that's our brother. We got to help him. And I don't know what kind of help he expected us to give him in that situation, but he called one of our mutual friends who happens to be gay and was like, can you talk to him? What's going on? Like, I need to get inside his head and see what he's feeling. Like, he wanted to reach out and, be there for him and have understanding. And it was just funny. Like, that was Michael. Like, he was always concerned. And I'm like, you guys need to chill out. Matt's just fucking around. So essentially what I'm saying is Michael loved everyone. Michael was a lover, and it was evident. And the saddest part about this tale is that Michael didn't love himself. And hence why he had the pattern in his life of self sabotage, self destruction, turning to toxic comforts to get him through, and trying to find himself again. And it was no mystery to anybody. Like, Michael was an amazing individual. He was great at everything he did. And a lot of people didn't get the chance to see the behind the scenes of why he was so great. When we talk about his basketball career in high school and junior high and CYO, why he was so great is Michael was obsessed. And I think throughout his life, he just had an obsessive personality. But I remember as kids, like, he slept with his basketball. He would watch tapes of basketball daily. Wake up, he putting on the tapes. He would watch basketball games, and in between commercials, he would go out and shoot in the backyard. Then when the game came back on, he'd sit there on the couch holding his basketball, watching the game. And then he'd go back out again, and that was his thing of obsession. So to anybody out there, if you want to truly be great at something, it's no mystery, man. You got to be obsessive. You got to love what you do. You got to have that passion. And that's one of the things that I talk about often is that. But I seen it, and I learned a lot of that from watching my brother and why he was so good at what he did. And that translated to pretty much anything he ever did in life, whether it was good behaviors or bad behaviors. He obsessed, and he was the best at it. So anybody that came in contact with Michael knew that Michael had that it factor. There was just something special about him. The way he looked, the way he talked, the way he acted. He was just a magical being. And, he got the full ride to Cal Berkeley based on his basketball skills. And, he walked away from that. And I can remember 2 years, probably 2 years later, it just bumped into somebody randomly that was like, oh, you're Michael Lawson. What happened to Cal? And, he explained that story, and they said, well, we can offer you a full ride scholarship to our school. And here he is 2 years later, hadn't played basketball for 2 years. But just based on, what he had done, they're like, here's a full ride scholarship. So he went to class. And then when it came to basketball season, he left. And it was something about going back to that court that he just couldn't fathom. He couldn't see himself doing. And it's crazy because a year or 2 years after that, he got approached by somebody again, just random, met him, you're Michael Lawson. And he got another full ride scholarship to Academy of Art Film School, which that was one of the things he wanted to do is film. And so here was his opportunity to start over. And so he went to class. He was learning new stuff. He was loving it, talking about films he wanted to make and things he wanted to learn. And again, once it came to basketball season, Michael left. He didn't want to face that. Like I said, everybody knew that he just had that magic and ability to do whatever he wanted to do. It was not impossible. Whether it was acting, I remember taking him to FSW. He wanted to get into wrestling, and introduced him to the owner. And Joe DeFalco was like, in a year, this guy's gonna be our heavyweight champion. Like he's got that it factor, and it's just any walk of life, no matter what he did, you knew that Michael was special. And coming from his background in basketball, like I truly respect it when you fall out of love for something, whether it's a career, a passion, basketball, sports, a relationship. When you fall out of love and you no longer love it, stop doing it. Stop putting yourself through that. And Michael fell out of love with basketball, and it was just evident. But in his heart, he felt like all the love he had ever received, all the accolades, all the happiness that he received from people came from his ability to be great on the basketball court. And he always continued in his mind to chase that dream in some form or fashion. But even though he had fallen out of love with basketball, he knew that he had to do something great in order to counteract that. So people would say, oh, yeah, we still love Michael. And this was in his head. I mean, I know anybody watching this, anybody that knew Michael loved him, regardless what he did. But to him, he had to regain his purpose, and people knew him as the basketball guy. So I know he lived his life trying to reclaim that glory. So throughout life, I know that trying to reclaim that, and trying to find himself again and find something that he could latch onto. Like whatever he did was great. When it was acting, just like I said, anything he touched. But I know that walking away from basketball, that was always a dark place in his mind. And I think that the only way that he found to cope was through drugs, alcohol, self-loathing, self-sabotaging behavior. And he allowed that, he, as happy as he was, and you see that beautiful smile, like Michael had a lot of pain, a lot of insecurities, a lot of unhappiness inside, and that's the way he chose to cope. And you could say it's part of our DNA, with family issues. But I know that him turning to the dark forces helped him to cope with that pain, but he always felt like he was still in control of that. And one day he'd find this thing and he'd be great again. And definitely one thing about Michael, no matter what he did, with the self-sabotage and the demons, like he never looked like somebody that was strung out or on some bullshit. Like he was just always a beautiful man. He was always in shape. He was always smiling. He always had a positive attitude. He was always helpful. He was always loving. So like we used to always talk like, man, people that do what you do don't look how you look, man. That's a blessing. Like God has intended for you to do more. And he was always like, yeah, I feel that. And I think one way to look at that was a beautiful gift, but also a curse, because it made him think that I can always bounce back from this. I'm still good. I'm still getting opportunities. And that didn't happen to be the case in the end. Roughly 3 weeks before my brother passed away, he sent me a text message. He was in a dark place. He was out in Hawaii, went out there to be with his daughter and try to get through whatever he was going through at the time. And he was just in a bad place. And I remember getting a text late at night, and he asked me if I could send him some clips or some videos of, his basketball days in high school. He said specifically, like, please send me some clips, anything. Remind me of who I was. And throughout the years, I would always send him, just different clips to kind of help motivate him and remind him. But this time I told him, man, everything you were is everything you are. And it's inside of you right now, man. You don't need any clips. You're Michael Lawson, man. You can do anything. And this is the part I struggle with the most, and I haven't talked to a lot of people about it. Haven't mentioned it. Some new, but sadly, 3 weeks later from getting that text, my beautiful, loving, amazing, talented brother passed away in the middle of the night, alone in Hawaii. In a homeless shelter. Here's this great man. I mean, to look at him and just everybody's blessed. Don't get me wrong, but like I said, he had that magic, and to know that all the potential, everything he had, came down to him dying alone in a fucking homeless shelter. It was tragic. It was a tragic end to a beautiful man's life. And even more of a testament to that, when I went out to Hawaii to gather his belongings, whatever he had left, they gave me a tour of the shelter, and the counselor that I was with said, "Your brother was awesome, man." Like, I asked him all the time, like, "What are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here, man." There was just something about Michael that everybody he came in contact with was like, this man is special. And I just wish that at the end of the day, he was able to let all that extra bullshit and pressure from the outside world and everybody else, and just realize his magic, his true magic. And up to the end, he was never able to let that go. And I guess one of the biggest takeaways from this whole scenario, I mean, you lose somebody. This is the closest person to me I lost. I've lost grandparents, who have lived full lives, and it was just kind of seemed natural. It was tough, but like for Michael, with his potential at his age, to be gone, it's like initially it's like, the old cliche, you never know when it's your time. I got to live life to the fullest. And slowly over time, that mantra dissipates, and we go back to living life and kind of forget that it can all end in an instant, that you can go from laughs and happiness and loving to emptiness, to being gone. And reflecting back over the last year, I have not lived to my fullest potential. I have not loved to my fullest potential. And it's definitely time to take a step back and really evaluate what's next for me. And if you're watching this, I mean, maybe take that message to heart, man. Are you living your best life? Because I know I'm not. And it's time to change that. One of Michael's biggest goals in life was to help other people. He just wanted to help, like, let his mess be his message. And he wanted to get to a point where he was good. He was back on his feet. He was steady. He was consistent. And he could tell his story. He was so ashamed of where he had gotten and what he felt he had become that he couldn't tell his story. And he felt he couldn't help anybody until he figured it out. And I used to always tell him, like, just through this process alone, man, that you keep going, that people could look at you and think, like, man, here's this amazing guy, and know that you're dealing with so much and you just keep going. That alone can help people. But he was scared. He was scared that the little people that he had in his life at that time wouldn't accept that. That he'd be embarrassed, that he'd be rejected. And we all know that wasn't the case. We would have respected that. I respected that. And I just wish that he had the opportunity to realize that before he passed. And that's, I mean, I'm since he passed, was trying to figure out how do I honor my brother and tell his story without, disrespecting his legacy or whatever people may have thought how he was living. My brother was beautiful. In his final months, he made it a point to move to Hawaii, knowing he was still dealing with what he was dealing with, but he wanted to be with his daughter. And I used to always question, like, how, because I took pride in raising my son and was like, how can you be a father, when you're going through this stuff, and how can you do what's best for her? But it wasn't until I met his daughter that instantly I realized how much love he felt for her and how much happiness she brought him. And his conversations were always about his daughter. He wanted to see her. He wanted to be with her. He needed her. She needed him. And I know that he truly believed that. And I just wish that he had an opportunity and she had an opportunity to grow and live life together and, see those moments. And sadly, that just wasn't the case. So, me, I take it upon myself to keep his memory alive and make sure that he's never forgotten. So in closing, 365 days. Oh, what a difference a year makes. Michael, I love you. I miss you. I think about you daily. My beautiful brother. Here's to you. You will never, ever be forgotten. And I will leave everybody with this. You will die. So fucking live. And even more important, everybody you know will die. So fucking love. And that's the difference. I love you, Michael.
To hear half your breath. I know you're still living your life after death.